Good morning and welcome to this. This is kind of new. Never done this before on my channel, but I wanted to, so here it is. A few days ago, my sister and I went to the movie theaters because we were going to watch West Side Story, which was very good, by the way. And while we were there, I saw a cute little poster for Uncharted. And I made a comment to Mary, be like, oh, I kind of want to see that when that comes out. Unbeknownst to me, it was opening weekend for Uncharted. And so Mary's like, we can just buy tickets now. So, while sitting in the theater waiting for West Side Story to start, we bought tickets for Uncharted for later that night. I know nothing about Uncharted. I have not played the game, so I kind of went into it completely blind, except for what Mary told me right before it started, the little she knew about it. But yeah, I just had some thoughts about the movie, and I thought I would like to share. So here is an okay review of Uncharted by someone who has never played the game. Now, before I get started into my nitty-gritty, spoilery review of Uncharted, I'll just say this. I liked the movie. It was fine. It was good, mindless fun, is what I would say. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you can click off now, watch the movie, come back, or you can just keep watching. Now, good, mindless fun is one of my favorite genres. It's something I love. Those are the movies I love the most. I enjoy the movie Abduction with Taylor Lautner, and that is a bad movie. But it's good, mindless fun, you know? A movie doesn't have to be Oscar worthy to be good, you know? I just love being able to turn my brain off and enjoy a movie, you know? That's just fun. But good, mindless fun isn't always the best thing when it's based off something people love. So what I know about Uncharted, what Mary told me, and from what I've seen complained about online because of this movie, my understanding is that Uncharted is a treasure hunting game with two brothers, and one of them is named Nathan. And that's it. That's all I know. Yeah, and I mean, I've seen a picture of Nathan Drake online. First of all, hot. And there's a little controversy with casting Tom Holland as Nathan, because when you put them side by side, they don't really look alike. And while casting isn't everything, you know, to fans it's important because you've been imagining this person in your mind, and seeing someone that just doesn't, you know, look like that, it's kind of always gonna oh, you know, but you know, there's still hope. Casting isn't everything. He could perfectly embody the character, who knows? And you know, I could forgive them for that if it wasn't an obvious cash grab. You know, casting Tom Holland after, you know, No Way Home. And I hate to admit, but it worked. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I wanted to see the movie, is because Tom Holland was in it. And because it was based on a video game, and I was like, oh, I may have heard of that, because I know Naughty Dog, so yeah, I'll watch it. But I mean, the main reason I wanted to watch it was Tom Holland. So I hate that it worked, because it was so obvious. I mean, it's like they didn't even try to get someone that looked like Nathan Drake. Is this what it looks like? They didn't even try to find someone. They just went, oh, who's the hottest action star right now? Let's pick Spider-Man. And yeah, and so I saw the movie because of it, and I hate that, you know? And because, you know, you could forgive them for age bending almost the character, make him look just different and kind of younger because he's wonderful and it embodies the character perfectly. Yeah, that'd be fine then. But it just seemed a little shady. You know what I mean? But here's the thing. When casting these ultra famous actors in movies, it's sort of a catch-22. I actually don't know how to use the phrase catch-22, so maybe I'm using it wrong. But it's kind of you go to see these movies because they have these actors in them. But then when you're watching the movie, all you can see is the actors and not the characters that they're playing. If I hadn't gone online and seen that his character was named Nathan, I would not have registered that. Because in my mind, every time I saw him, I was like, oh, that's Tom Holland. He didn't become the character for me. He just stayed Tom Holland in this world. Same with Mark Wahlberg. I could not tell you what his character's name was. He is just Mark Wahlberg. And that's a big gripe I have with movies nowadays, is that they cast these ultra famous actors not because they fit the world or the character the best, but because they're going to bring in the money. And not saying these actors don't deserve these roles, because they absolutely do. They're famous for a reason. They're talented. But there are so many talented actors out there. So many options, and yet they stick to these few. And it really just takes you out of the movie because some actors do a great job of camouflaging whatever role they're in. They're unrecognizable from who they are, and they just really sink into the character. And it's not always actors' fault when they don't do that, because sometimes the characters themselves, or just like the writing itself, like doesn't allow these actors to just like truly melt into the story and become part of the world. They kind of stand out. You know, they don't quite fit. And that's something that's really annoying with movies nowadays, is that like I watch them and I don't get the characters, I see the actors doing something. And I don't like that. And something else. Why did they cast Mark Wahlberg? Why? I mean, when it's obvious they were kind of doing like famous people cash grab, like, see, he's like, this famous person is playing this character. But why Mark Wahlberg? I mean, they couldn't have picked someone less problematic. Like, they're obviously going for a cash grab, so then why pick Mark Wahlberg? He's not a great man. Like, you could pick Matt Damon, and honestly, it would have been the exact same movie. And even then, my dad would have seen it, because he loves the Jason Bourne movies. I mean, Mark Wahlberg did fine. His acting was fine. He was good in the movie. Sure, he did great. Whatever. Why? Why him? Why? Back to Tom Holland. Disclaimer, I love Tom Holland. Obviously. He's my favorite Spider-Man. He's a great and talented actor. Wonderful. He did great in this role. But it's very similar to the character he played in Spider-Man. It's like if Peter Parker grew up and became a thief, is kind of how I would describe his portrayal of Nathan. Not that it's a bad thing, because he's very good at playing that like type of character, that kind of bumbling, quippy, like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna try, and here we go. That's not my impression of Tom Holland.
Oh my god!
I shouldn't have come out to play with a big boys weeing, because you're about to get a proper Scottish welcome.
What? Okay, whoa, let me guess. Pina colada?
You know what I mean? It just makes me a little nervous, because he's such a talented actor that these kind of I'm not saying Peter Parker's one-dimensional, but this kind of Nathan Drake was kind of he seemed very simple. A very simple character, and in this movie, and just, he can do more. He can do more. Let him do more. Now, moving on from casting. Oh, actually, no. I have more things to say. The girl who played Chloe, the girl, I love her. She was in one of my favorite shows, The Wilds, and it's just really exciting to see her. And she did great. I mean, she really just did great. And the girl who played the bad girl, I don't know her character's name or her name, but she was so cool and beautiful, and her fighting was so fun to watch. Anyway, that's all I have to say about casting. Now moving on. Something I did love were the bit of, like, video game references they did. Now, they might have done more references to, like, the actual game Uncharted, but again, I haven't seen it, so I didn't catch it. But they did, like, just general, like, video game references where it's, like, when he was fighting the Scotsman in, like, the electrical room, he says something, and they keep fighting, and he says it again, like an NPC who only has one line of dialogue that just repeats. Like, that was really cute. It made me giggle. Oh, at, like, one point, like, Tom picks up gunpowder and like puts it away, like how you pick up resources and collect. But my favorite like video game reference was the plane scene where it's like those stacks of like cubes of cargo and they're sneaking through it. And because like the second they panned into that shot, I was like, that is a video game layout. That is a layout you would find in a video game. And I lived. And they like were sneaking through, and they even did like the thing where like you bump into something and the NPC turns, gets like the question mark, and then goes, and keeps walking. It was just, that was really cute, because I was like, wow, like it's an actual video game level. I don't know. I really liked that part. Even though I haven't played many video games, I still caught those and appreciated them, and I just thought that was really cute. Now, one of my favorite parts of the movie was the combat. They did I thought it was really fun. It was choreographed really well. I enjoyed it. It was very dynamic and fun. And they didn't do that really annoying thing that Marvel does with like cut every second, and you can't actually like you're not watching it. It just keeps cutting between different shots, and it becomes very disorienting, very emotion sickening, and it's hard to follow. They didn't do that, so I gotta give them props. I gotta give props to any movie that doesn't do that, because that is the most annoying thing, because then you can't actually watch the fight. You're constantly just like being shown different angles, so you can't really follow. It's all really fast, and it's just the worst. But the coolest thing was when the two ships were flying through the air. That was really cool. I mean, I don't know who thought of that. I don't know if that was part of the game or if that was just something they did for the movie, but that was sick. Like, that was just so cool. They pick up these ancient ships and helicopters, and they're flying through the air, and they're, like, shooting cannons at each other. Well, they shoot a cannon. But they're, like, swinging and, like, board. And they're like, we're gonna board the ship, and they, like, throw, like, the grappling hooks, and they board the ship. Like, that was just sick. It was, like, a pirate battle in the air. It was just so cool. I really appreciated that. That was just, like, really fun to watch. Very good stuff. Now we get to the struggle part of the movie. The plot. Now, if you look at it on the surface, it's a very good treasure hunt movie. Lots of twists and turns and backstabbing and clues and treasure maps and puzzles, and it's a good treasure hunt movie. And then you got the bad guys, like, it's great. But if you start to think about it for more than like 3 seconds, it starts to be like, there's some holes that start to poke in it. So, the whole beginning half of the movie is setting up the lore of this treasure, right? Now, I don't quite remember what exactly it is, because my memory recall is real bad. But basically, it's like the guy who's sailed the world the first time, Magellan. I don't actually know. Like that, it's like based off of that, and how like he actually didn't make it the whole way, his crew did, and like really they should be the ones who gets credit for it. Hello. But they found all this gold, right? As you do. And they found it in like the Philippines? I don't remember. And so they found out this gold and they decided to hide it, right? They were like financed by this family that Antonio Banderas is part of. I don't remember the name of the actual family. And they didn't want to bring the gold back to them, so they hid it. The big thing that we're introduced to is that there's 2 keys that you need to use at the same time to open, like, to find this treasure. Because the crew didn't trust each other to only have 1 key. They didn't think that was safe. Which, I mean, makes sense. So they have 2 keys they have to use at the same time to find the treasure. And then there's like a journal, you have to decode it to find where the treasure is. Makes sense. Very textbook treasure hunter stuff. So they find the church, go through the puzzles, use the keys, almost die, and then they open the room, like the big room, the big reveal, and it's full of salt. It's empty, no gold. Except there's one map to where the real treasure is. And I don't understand. So like, what's the point of all the keys in the puzzles if the gold's not even there? It's just a map. But that's not the worst part. Because then he solves like the one last puzzle of the map and he finds the gold. And it's not like a pile of gold. No. It is 2 full-size ships, the ships they use to sail the world, full of the gold. But I don't get it. Because wasn't the whole point was that they didn't trust each other enough to have the gold, that they had to make 2 keys and lock it away somewhere. But no, what they ended up doing was just taking the gold still on the ships, and they just stick it in a cave somewhere. And not only they just stick it in a cave, it's a cave with a giant hole at the top. I don't get it. Because like, say one of the crew members, who they didn't trust because they don't trust each other, so they made 2 keys, wanted to be like, you know what, it, I want some gold. He could just go back. The ship's already there. The gold's already on a ship. He doesn't have to pack it up. He can just take a ship and leave. Like, I don't get it. And I don't understand how it wasn't discovered before this. I mean, I get, like, it's on a coastline, it's in a cave, and, like, the tide is high, you can't, like, go under, but when the tide is low, maybe there's, like, the little path, and then you find, like, the big cavern, which I don't know how they got those ships there in the first place. But there's a giant hole in the top. I don't know how someone just, like, in all of these years, never just accidentally fell in. You know what I mean? Like, no one just found, like, it wasn't, like, a small hole. It's a big enough hole that later on, they airlift the ships out of it. Like, that's not a small hole. I don't, like, maybe it's in, like, a really, like, isolated part of the world. Sure. But still. I get, like, okay, I get hiding the gold not in Spain so that the family that Antonio Banderas is part of doesn't find it. I get that. Yes, sure. But they went through all this trouble to make all these puzzles and keys for it to lead, to get to a map that leads them to where it is. It's not clicking for me. Maybe I'm just dumb. I mean, I'm not a pirate. I'm not an explorer who's found billions of dollars of gold. I've never had any need to hide something so well. If you're gonna hide something somewhere that's so valuable and have all these clues keeping people like distracted somewhere else, why just leave it in a cave? And not only that, a cave with a giant hole in the top. And why keep the ships? I mean, because it'd be harder for someone to find the gold and then have to take the gold out. Because this is a gripe I have with like a lot of treasure hunting movies. How do they get the gold out of there? These bad guys, the Antonio Banderas and the girl, I don't know her name, with the short hair, you know, they have like all this money and resources. Like they brought like 2 helicopters, a barge, some boats. They brought all this cargo, all to like get the gold when they find it. Smart, makes sense. Tom Holland has 1 boat, no backpack. How did he think he was gonna get the gold out? It doesn't make any sense to me. This man drives a boat into the cabin where it says it is. He jumps out, swims a bit, and then emerges into the big cabin where there's like the 2 ships full of gold. And he's so excited. He's like, yes, I found it. And yes, you were the first to find it. But now what are you gonna do once you found it? And he like isn't concerned about that at all. I feel like it should have crossed his mind to be like, great, now what? Like, I have it. There's people chasing me, and they can actually take it if they find it. Like, I just don't understand why that wasn't a concern. Even if he wasn't being chased, like if he was there all by himself, do you know how long it would take for him to cart all of that gold out of there? And he would have to leave the ships behind, because it's not like he had a helicopter to airlift him out of there. So then what was he gonna do? He didn't even bring a backpack. He only had his like cargo short pockets. Like, I don't understand the logic here. He didn't even have his holsters yet. Like, he found that later on the ship. I get that a pocket full of gold is enough. Like, that is more than anybody needs. And then he could take his fill and then like call whoever's gold it was originally, because don't steal things from other countries, and be like, hey, your national, you know, country treasure is here, come pick it up, hang up the phone, and then he's golden. But he had people chasing him, so I just don't know what his plan was to like, because he was like working so hard to find it, but never once did they talk about what they were going to do when they found it. Like, Antonio Banderas obviously did, because he brought helicopters, he brought barges. Like, I get they don't have like access to that, but they should have just at least thought it. Like, he should have at least brought a backpack. Anyway, final thing I'll say about having all these puzzles just to lead to a map that points them to where it is. It would be like if in National Treasure, they steal the Declaration of Independence, they go to Antarctica to find that ship, they do all of these things, they're underground, all to find out that they find a map with all the gold pointing to a cabin in the woods. You know what I mean? Like, it's super anticlimactic and doesn't fit. You know, it's like they do all of this, they steal all of these things, only to find out that it's just there. It's just there. And like, it's not like if it was just in a cabin in the woods in the basement. No, it'd just be like if they opened the door and there it was sitting on the couch. It just seems very anticlimactic. And I guess they kind of remedied that by having the ships airlifted out and having them fly around and like fight. That was kind of cool. So I guess it's like the only reason there was a gaping hole there is so they could do that, which I can appreciate because it was really sick. It was really cool. But by doing that, you create a lot of questions that don't have answers, and it's so confusing. Like, what? Like, I get wanting to have the gaping hole so you can airlift these ships out and make it like convenient, because then they can actually get it out. Otherwise, they'd just be stuck there. It just makes my head hurt. But the worst part of the entire movie, the thing that like it pains me to even bring up now, like it just hurts my heart, is they wreck the ships. These priceless pieces of history, these artifacts, these really dope looking ships, they shatter them. They don't just wreck them, they shatter them. And they fall into the sea. And like, I don't care that the gold fell in the sea. They could just send divers. I mean, they found the Titanic. They could just find this gold. People can dive down there and get it. Whatever. But you cannot bring back those ships. They are gone. They are lost forever. Like, if the lore is to be, like, believed, these were the ships that first circumvented the Earth. That is a lot of history, and they just shatter them like it's nothing. I mean, you could twist it to, like, an epic portrayal of, like, looting and capitalism. Like, they don't care about the history, they just want the money, like, sure. But, like, you didn't have to wreck the ships. You didn't have to do it. So, to round it all out, my final thoughts of the movie. The women in the movie were the best part. They're the best part of the movie. 2, Tom Holland was amazing. He was great in the movie. Highly, highly enjoyed his performance. It was a great movie. I enjoyed watching it. I had a fun time. All this being said, if you think about the movie too hard, it loses some of its charm. I mean, that can be said about a lot of movies. That, like, if you think about the plot too hard, you're like, this doesn't make any sense. And so it's one of those movies that's just like that, where he's like, don't think too hard about it, and you're gonna like it. Unless you play the games, then maybe you won't. I don't know. Uncharted to me felt like a really fun movie, but it didn't feel like it was given the same care as it probably should have been. Because this is something people love, that have dedicated hours to playing these games through. Because, I mean, I can't imagine these are short games. I mean, I just played through Spider-Man, and it's taken me hours, you know? And so it's something that, like, people dedicate a lot of time to. So I just feel like it deserves a lot more respect than I thought it got. And maybe I'll play Uncharted now just to see how it pairs up. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. But if I were a fan of Uncharted, I don't know if I'd be able to say the same. Yeah, that's my final thoughts of Uncharted. Highly enjoyed it. I'll probably watch it again at some point. And if they make another one, which they inevitably will, I'll probably watch it too. You know, I'll probably watch that one as well. Because I liked it. I feel weird saying that because I feel like I don't want to, because it feels like a cash grab. That's what it feels like. Like the Last of Us TV show that they're making, which is another Naughty Dog production, that seems like a lot more care has been taken into it. And I sure hope so, and if there's not, I will beat somebody up about it. That's not true. But I'll be upset if it's not respected by the writers that are writing it. And so, yeah, so I don't want to like it, but I do. And I'm sorry. You know what? No, I'm not sorry. If I were to give it a rating, well, I give everything a 10 out of 10. So maybe I shouldn't give the ratings. Because I feel bad when I give anything under a 9. Because I don't want to hurt its feelings. But I'm going to give Uncharted a 7. So 7 out of 10. Well, that concludes my thoughts on Uncharted. I hope you enjoyed the video. This was very fun. I like to ramble. I like to talk. So this is really fun. I love movies, so this was kind of a fun thing to do. And it's about video games, kind of, so I was like, it fits the theme of the channel. Jesus. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like if you would like, subscribe if you want, and I hope you have a good day, or continue to have a good day. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye.